Retro Royale is here, and it's going to save Clash Royale. With no tower troops, no evolutions, and no champions, we will get to play Clash Royale like it's 2017 again. And with this new meta, you are going to need guidance on the best decks to create and play with. That's why, in this video, I'm going to be showcasing and breaking down 5 of the best OG decks to use so you can win and have success in Retro Royale. Starting out strong at number 1, we have 3.0 Expo Cycle. Expo is going to be so strong in Retro Royale because 2 of its biggest counters in the game, Royal Recruits and Earthquake, are simply unavailable in Retro Royale. Furthermore, no champions and no evolutions means many of the newest cards added to the game, which usually tended to counter Expo, are simply unavailable, leaving it plenty of room to have free reign over the meta. How to play Expo Cycle is pretty basic. You have your cycle cards for a perfect defense. You want to go with your Expos to either outcycle their counters or build up counter pushes and punish opponents for being low on elixir. Furthermore, in addition to 3.0 Expo Cycle, you can also play Icepo if you'd like, which is also going to be another very strong deck in this meta. So let's get into our very first match with 3.0 Expo. I am so excited, guys. I cannot understate this. I just really have so much faith in Retro Royale. I think it's going to save Clash Royale, genuinely. I've been waiting. I mean, it might just be rose-tinted lenses because, you know, I am an OG player and I enjoyed the old meta so much, but I really just have a lot of faith in this game mode, and I think it's going to be so enjoyable. You know, champions and evolutions and tower troops all kind of ruin the game in their own respective ways, and so I just feel like having this mode is just such a breath of fresh air. You know, it's only been a few hours since it's out, and I've already seen so many of my friends being so happy that this game mode is a thing, saying that it feels like Clash Royale is Clash Royale again. You know, this is what the game was meant to be like, many things along those lines. It's just so amazing to see this. So let's go Expo right now because my opponent is a bit low in elixir and he spent a lot on offense. Just now goes for the Valkyrie Go Knight, and I'm predicting he's going to go for a Dark Goblin with this as well. Yes, he will. I believe we should be able to get an Expo log here because he should be pretty low in elixir. Go for my skeletons to block the Expo, and I have my Tesla ready in case he goes Hog Rider because he is indeed back to the Hog. He does go for it. Let me react in time. Great reaction time on that Tesla to protect the Expo, and as you can see, Expo Cycle is such a strong option where if you have good card cycle counting and elixir counting skills, you can just win the game off of one big punch. My opponent there just overcommitted a bit too much. You know, I got a great defense on that Lumberjack because the Tesla was still alive, and overall he just overcommitted quite a lot, and just like that, the game is already over. But again, as for this deck and its strengths, there's literally no Royal Recruits and no Earthquake in the meta, so I really think Expo has so much room to dominate. I honestly feel like it's going to be very overpowered, and I think there are going to be quite a lot of complaint posts about this deck because it just needs a certain amount of cards to counter it. I think there's going to be plenty of players that simply don't have counters and will be upset about it. Speaking of which, my opponent is already going to give up, so that's going to be game 1 right in the bag. Alright, so we are hopping into yet another game with 3.0 Expo Cycle because that one was frankly too anticlimactic, just winning off of one punish. But it does also prove my point, which is this deck is so strong and has so much potential in this game where you can just let one mistake cost them the entire game by capitalizing on it. So very, very strong. And I will say that there is one thing I want to talk about, and I think I do completely understand the casuals perspective on this. And as you can see right there, my Fireball one-shots the 3 Musketeers. You guys can guess what I'm talking about. It is the level 15 in Retro Royale. Now, I'm sure Supercell had a reason for doing this. You know, they are a business, they need revenue, yada yada yada, but I still do honestly completely empathize with all of the casuals about the level discrepancy. You know, back in 2017, which is when this game mode is based off of, the level cap was level 13, so it is kind of interesting because, you know, play Clash Royale like it's 2017 again, which means that you're bringing back OG players. You know, people who used to play the game a long time ago can maybe come back and try it out once more, but unfortunately it's just not going to be possible for them to compete on an even playing field when they don't have levels available to play at level 15 compared to other people who do. So, you know, right now I'm already against someone who has level 14 Princess Tower, level 14 King Tower, and some other cards level 14 as well. It's just a little bit unfortunate to see because honestly it would be so fun if everyone was just on even playing field. I'm sure players would love to compete. So like I said, I do empathize with you guys. I even made a meme of my own. You might have seen it on my YouTube community post where I talked about, you know, Retro Royale is so amazing, but then the Angry King where he sees that as level 15. But anyways, that aside, I am still super happy about this game mode. I'm not really affected by it myself. Again, my heart does go out to all of you guys who are going to be struggling with card levels, but for everyone who's been playing for a long time, I think you guys would have at least one max deck, hopefully. So you should still be able to enjoy this event. But we are actually up against a certified classic deck in its own right now, 3 Musketeers, and wow, my opponent is just taking the spam to the next level, everything at the bridge. I'll just go for my log and everything's going to be perfectly cleaned up. I think I'll actually go for an Expo because he's been getting way too feisty on offense there. I don't really want to let that slide. I'm not going to go for the Fireball and the Pump. I'll actually just kind of let it go, and I can go for a Fireball on 3 Musketeers to fully take those out instead, just to protect this Expo. And this is so refreshing to see, man. I mean, this guy kind of got destroyed, of course. That's not that refreshing for him. But what I'm saying is the return of such classic OG decks like 3 Musketeers, man. When was the last time you guys saw 3 Musketeers deck? I feel like they really got shoved out of the meta because of evolutions and tower troops as well. I think tower troops are even more of a problem than evolutions, you know, just completely ruining the game. So the fact that there's no Duchess, no Cannoneer right now, no Chef, it's just so pleasant to see. But yeah, that was a really nice win against 3 Musketeers. Just again, nice early punish, and of course the level difference did not really help him out either. But I'm still super excited for Retro Royale, and I feel like we're going to see so many classic decks like 3M. This is just going to be an absolute blast. By the way, as for the format of Retro Royale, it's going to follow a very similar one to 2v2 League, where you're going to be starting out at 0 wins in the casual league, and you have to work your way up to 30 wins, where you can then qualify for the competitive league, where you can compete for the Hall of Fame and to earn finishes, which will come up as a badge on your profile. Also, as you saw, there's a lot of season tokens lying on that road up to 30 wins, and as a result of Retro Royale, the season shop has been buffed to have a whole new slew of rewards, along with some awesome banners that you can spend your season tokens on. So definitely make sure to take a look at all of those. Alright, and with deck number 2, we've got a certified classic logbait. You know, this has been an archetype for many years, almost existed as long as Clash Royale itself has, ever since log came out. But classic logbait's always been in a pretty decent spot in the meta, where there's all sorts of variations that evolve. You have people like Riley finishing top 5 in the entire world on Path of Legends. If it's that strong in the right hands on Path of Legends, just imagine how strong classic logbait will be in this mode, where there's so many new cards just not available. Again, similar to Expo, many counters such as Royal Recruits are simply not available to be played in this mode, leaving logbait plenty of room to thrive. It's also one that's pretty decent if you don't have the best levels, because cards like Inferno Tower don't necessarily need to be maxed out for you to have success with them. In order to play this deck, it's pretty simple. All you really do is utilize the fact that they only have 1 log, and that way you can get a lot of value out of your other cards. So for example, if my opponent goes for a log on my Goblin Barrel, then my Goblin Gang and my Princess have free reign to take over. Now this is going to be a very interesting deck. Bowler plus Furnace. I don't actually like the look of this deck, I'm going to be honest with you, but we'll see what's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be all sorts of deck in this retro mode. I really don't know what exactly we can expect to see, so we're just going to have to find out. I'm going to go for my Inferno Tower right now, take care of this Bowler, and that Furnace is unfortunately going to chip me out pretty effectively. The Eye Tower should help out after this Bowler gets taken out. Yes, that will be very helpful, but that's still a bunch of Fire Spirits on my tower. Pretty annoying, honestly. I kind of have to let that one go as well, because I don't want to sack an entire Goblin Gang into a Fire Spirit. So he goes for the E-Wiz, that's fine, I'll just log the E-Wiz, and then I think what I can do is I can go Barrel, and then I can just go Princess plus Ice Spirit for this Mini P.E.K.K.A, which should pretty much full counter that. So he does have a log. I'll go Knight for this, that way we have a bit of a counter push in both lanes. Princess will go in the left, Knight will go in the right to soak up some more of those Furnace Fire Spirits. And I think I'm actually going to log, I'll let this one go. I'll log the next wave of Fire Spirits and hopefully kill the Furnace while I'm at it. Yes, very nice. So, I mean, it's pretty annoying, but we're still doing a decent job at maintaining a position so far. It's going to be a bit of a more tricky matchup because my opponent does have the Bowler with a random minor cycle deck. But let's go for a Goblin Barrel right now. If he's not ready for it, he won't Bowler in time, and we will get a nice little bit of stabs in. Yes, very nice. Go for my low Eye Tower for that Bowler, which should just do a pretty good job at countering it. Again, the level of Eye Tower does not matter so much, so you can have a pretty decent job just defending most things in the game with your Inferno Tower without really needing it to be very level dependent. So very nice Ice Spirit over there. And now I can go for my Goblin Gang in the middle to distract this mini P.E.K.K.A. I'll go Knight plus Goblin Barrel far in the back, hopefully to maybe get him to mess up his log, potentially. No, he's going to hit that successfully, unfortunately, but it's still going to be a decent situation overall. Don't get me wrong, I'm not feeling too bad about this position just yet, and we can maybe enlist the help of Rocket Cycle. Even right now, honestly, my opponent goes well with the back. I will take that Rocket, because why not? Let's take our Rocket. Let's go for Eye Tower to help DPS down this Miner, and also just help against these waves of Fire Spirits that are going to go crazy. My opponent is playing Lightning. You cannot be serious right now. Now, this actually looks like a pretty tough match, I'm not going to lie. This one does not look easy. He has a Lightning, he has Miner, Fast Cycle. I'll go Ice Spirit to soak up this first Fire Spirit, then Goblin Gang so it doesn't die. He does go for a log, which means he doesn't have anything for this barrel, so I'll go with my Goblin Gang, a Goblin Barrel plus pre-log for the Goblin Gang, which we do clip, so that's going to be a lot of damage coming in. As you can see, Logbait also has a lot of room for outplay potential. With predictions, you can just really get opponents. Gonna go Knight, Goblin Gang, and then Goblin Barrel in the far back. Now if my opponent goes for a bowler, he might not be able to hit everything. Does cycle his log, which means this is going to be very defensively troublesome for him, and he's just going to lose his entire tower down to rocket range. So that was a very nice win against what I would say is kind of a counter deck. As you can see, classic Logbait has a lot of room to outplay opponents. For deck number 3, we have built none other than Giant Double Prince, one of the most classic decks in Clash Royale. We've also got the Miner in here, and I believe this deck is going to be one of the best decks in Retro Royale because of two things. Number one, Prince is so strong, one of the most broken cards in the entire game right now. Thoroughly believes it deserves a nerf, and it's not getting nerfed anytime soon, so right now, feel free to use it and abuse opponents with it. Number two, there are no evolutions in this game mode, and Giant was always kind of an archetype that relied on other evolutions to do its work. You know, this is a classic Giant deck, and we only have Evo Zap out of evolutions here, so you always had to kind of slot in other cards, such as Evo Knight or Evo Bomber. But now, with free reign to choose whatever card you want, Giant can truly thrive and have success. Furthermore, Ewiz also got a huge buff, which means Ewiz is going to be very strong in this game mode as well. Actually seeing very good use rates on top ladder right now, so I truly believe Giant is going to be one of the best decks in this game mode, and I did want to show Beatdown some love. You know me with my best deck videos, guys. I like to show at least a little bit of variety for everything, you know, some Beatdown, some Cycle of course, and just a wide variety of everything. We're going to have all of that, you know, plenty more fun decks to show. Into this game, my opponent is playing Ghost plus Goblin Gang, no idea what he's playing. I won't go for the Giant right now, it's a bit too aggressive. I think I'll just chill and find out more about his deck. We do see a very unfortunate Skarmy that's going to be a pain to deal with. I'll go for my Ewiz. Don't really want to go for it like this, but I kind of have to. Nothing else in Cycle, no Dark Prince, unfortunately. As you can see, though, Ewiz is putting in a lot of work at DPSing down that Wizard, and so even though it was one level lower, it does a pretty good job. Let's Fireball off this Dark Goblin, and this is going to be so awkward now. We're against Hog Rider, so Hog, one of the harder matchups for Giant Double Prince. You know, you don't really have many Hog counters in this deck. You have Ewiz and Prince as your two best ones. Unfortunately, I had neither of them available for that sequence, so it's going to be a bit tough. But I think we'll be fine. Now that we know more about our opponent's deck, we can kind of build our pushes accordingly. So I know that I want to build a Giant Prince push. I know that he has a Skarmy in this deck, so I want to save my Dark Prince for that. I know generally as well for the Hog Riders, I'd like to save my Prince or Ewiz to take care of those as well. Let's hover our Zap for the Goblin Gang, which is actually going to be a Mega Knight instead. Okay, so we've got a Mega Knight, guys. Mega Knight's going to be very, very strong. I will go for my Dark Prince right now, and I think I'll go for my Giant to tank for the Dark Prince. We'll go for that right about now. That way, you know, we can get our Dark Prince to get to work on this Mega Knight and just have it be tanked for. I think it's going to be very useful. Let's go for a Fireball on this Dark Goblin as well. Keep that Giant healthy and get to the tower. Yes, very nice. We'll get a couple of stabs in there. Plus, this Dark Prince is still going to be a threat on offense. Probably going to go for maybe a defensive Hog. No, he'll go for a Valkyrie. Okay, but we already have a pretty decent spot right now. I'll go for the Miner on defense and then the Mega Minion to help DPS as well. Honestly, should be a bit tricky, but I think we'll get this defense down just fine. Yeah, we'll take actually only one Valk hit, so we're still in the damage lead, and this is a bit of an awkward situation, but we've identified the opponent's deck successfully. We know what cards he has. We know what counters we need to play in our deck to build up a big push. Gonna go for the Giant right now to tank for that Wizard, and then the Prince should just make quick work of it. I'll actually let this go for a bit because I want that Wizard to just stay there, and I want the Prince to go behind the Giant, so I think that's actually going to be pretty useful. Let's go Miner as well. Mega Knight does come down. As you can see, the Giant is going to get to the tower. with that miner hammering away as well. Let's go for a fireball on the Dart Goblin. Let's get our Dark Prince ready for the splash, and then E was low as well to start resetting this hog. As you can see, we're kind of running away with this game now. We have a pretty comfortable damage lead. I'll actually go for a nice giant with this Ewiz plus Dark Prince. I'll go for a miner to snipe that wizard as well, and he's probably going to do a decent job at stopping this, but I think we'll actually be fine. We'll go for the zap on that Goblin Gang. As you can see, that's going to get taken out. The giant's going to get to the tower, and that's indeed going to be fireball range. So very nice game. As you can see, Giant Devil Prince has so much outplay potential. It's just so strong. You have so many strong cards. Prince and Ewiz, I think it's truly going to thrive in this game mode. This takes me back. Coming in at deck number 4, we've got the OG Miner Poison Cycle 3.0, created by none other than B-Rad himself. If you guys know B-Rad, this deck is essentially synonymous with him. I used to watch him back in 2018, 2019, where he would play this deck and get so much success playing top ladder, playing global tournaments with it. We've got the Valkyrie and the Ewiz for the strong defensive utility. I actually upgraded my Ewiz in honor of this deck. Didn't even do it for Giant Double Prince, but going to be so strong now because Ewiz got buffed. We also have the cycle cards, of course, and the Inferno Tower to lean on for defense in any situation. As for how to play this deck, you essentially just get amazing defensive positive elixir trades with your Valkyrie, Ewiz, cycle cards, and Inferno Tower, and translate them into offense by chipping the tower down with Miner, getting poison value on offense as well, and just overall playing a long con game, a battle of attrition, where you just out-chip your opponents. That's essentially how it works. It's going to be a very fun deck to play, and also a very high-skill deck to play if you want to challenge yourself. It's going to be pretty entertaining. So let's get into our match against 007 Caviera. Let's go for our Miner, and he plays Archers plus Skeletons. Could it be? Could we be playing against Expo Cycle? It actually still could be. Maybe it's 3.0 Expo Cycle with the Ice Golem, or 2.9 rather, with the Ice Golem. It actually is. There is no way, guys. I cannot believe my eyes. This guy is making me so proud as an Expo Cycle player myself, and 2.9 being the first deck that I ever played with. This is just making me so happy, I'm not going to lie to you. So we're going to get back to our log to take out that Expo. Unfortunately for him, Expo is still very weak as a card if you know what you're doing against it, so it's not going to be that tricky to deal with. He's getting a bit too feisty there. Just Valkyrie will take care of everything, but I guess he got me because I don't really have a tank for his next Expo place. You know, if he goes Expo at 6 right now, I'm actually a little concerned. I'm going to ignore this entire Ice Golem. I cannot afford to go Ewiz on that at all. Hell no. I will instead just choose to be passive and wait for his next Expo, because I feel like he's about to play that down any minute now. Will he? I'll go Miner in the corner here. If he does go Expo opposite, it will actually tank for that Expo for a while, so it's not going to be that bad of a play. He does go for the Ice Spirit to catch, but we're getting back to our Valkyrie in a second, so it's fine. I'm actually going to go for my Inferno Tower now. It's a bit of an aggressive play. I mean, it's 5 elixir, but my Valkyrie isn't really anywhere to be seen. It does actually force him to play a pretty weird play. You know, a defensive Expo with a misplaced Expo, which means I can just go for the poison on the weak side tower. So this is a perfect game to show this deck, guys, because I remember B-Rad used to crash out against Expo all the time, and I used to hate Miner Poison as a archetype playing against Expo, or playing with Expo, playing against Miner Poison, because I always felt it was such a hard matchup to play. So hopefully this will show you guys how to play this archetype, and it's going to be a very fun one. I remember B-Rad playing against this and crashing out against Expo all the time, you know, and that's kind of what fueled his hatred for Expo. But, okay, let's go for another eye tower. Maybe we can force my opponent to play another weird Debo. He's going to go for this instead. We'll go for our high poison on the Expo and log. As you can see, it's very easy to just chip out an Expo just by going for your big spell plus log, and then cycle cards to tank the rest of the Expo. He's actually playing Expo Rocket. Wow. So he is not playing Expo Fireball, he's playing Expo Rocket. That's going to change things for sure. It's going to be a bit more complicated. I'm actually going to go for a Miner plus Poison on that Archer, and we're actually in a bit of trouble here, but I think we'll still be fine. The Ewiz should tank, yes. So as a result of that, I'll go for my Eye Tower for this Expo. That'll get taken care of very nicely by the Inferno Tower, and my opponent does try and protect his Expo with the Ice Spirit to reset too little too late. Let's keep our pressure up. I think pressure is so important against spell cycle decks like these. By the way, Expo Rocket I think will be pretty solid. Gonna go for a Valkyrie to tank for this Miner. Gonna go for the Miner in a different spot. I'm actually gonna poison as well, predicting the skeletons on the Miner, which we will indeed not really get, but we'll force him to not go for the skeletons at all. You can see we're getting a ton of damage just pouring in as a result of that. And now we can get all the way back to another Valkyrie to tank for this Expo. Plus, with the very unfortunate under-leveling, my opponent's archers do indeed die to my log. Let's go Miner to snipe this Expo. Let's go for the Ewiz to help DPS it down as well. And it's going to be a pretty well-defended Expo, but I'm a bit concerned about this next one, because I know he's back to one any second now. I mean, we're doing a really good job of defending these Expos, but eventually it's going to get a bit tricky, you know, when we get overwhelmed. So I think If he goes for archers, I might just have to poison high this time. Yeah, let's poison high, just predicting archers, honestly. We got a knight instead. That's good enough. We do get the archers, actually, so we do actually end up getting that off. Very, very nice, and we barely take any expo damage. You know, a couple bolts isn't going to hurt anyone. And my opponent is just unrelenting with his pressure. I'll go Valkyrie opposite as well, just because I want to pressure a bit. I feel like it's not really that bad to pressure well. Then we can go for a bit of a lower eye tower, because, you know, my opponent's expo is pretty high up. He's kind of misplacing his stuff. Now let's go for a minor, and let's go for an aggressive poison because it's triple. I feel like we'll actually be fine. Now this is something they could have looked into, guys. Something that's pretty interesting to note about Retro Royale is it actually was... Oh, that was meant to be an E-Wiz. My bad, misclicking that, but it's fine. We actually predicted the archers, guys. That was intentional all along. But back in the day, there used to be no triple elixir. Actually, used to be 6-minute games, I believe. You know, 3 minutes of normal, 3 minutes of overtime sudden death. And it was pretty interesting because there was also tiebreaker, also beautiful prediction on the Expo. Kind of just destroying this guy right now, just because I have so much experience in the Expo cycle matchup, because I play Expo myself, of course, that, you know, it's just going very swimmingly. But yeah, back in the day, there used to be all sorts of differences in the game, and I feel like it's pretty interesting to note that, you know, with just all sorts of different things. Again, tiebreaker was not a thing. You would actually have draws if you ended up going to tiebreaker, so there would be all sorts of ways for Expo to do well. Also, there was no triple elixir. It's just curious looking back on the game, you know. But anyways, for this game itself, beautiful game with minor poison, just a long battle with perfect defense the whole game. Essentially how it's supposed to go. Very, very nicely done. B-Rad would be proud of me. Oh, I had so much trouble deciding on this final slot, but I think I'm going to settle on this one. Hog Rider Tornado, a classic deck known as Tower Tornadoes, where we have the Tombstone as the defensive building of choice. I actually elite leveled this in honor of this deck because it's so fun and so nostalgic. We have the Ice Wizard Tornado for amazing defense. We have the Mega Minion as another great defensive source. Ice Golem as the classic tank for Hog cycle decks. And then we have the Rocket as an alternate win condition in case we can't break through with the Hog. So it's pretty basic in terms of how to play. You know, you go with your Hog Rider for offense, you have the best defense in the game with a building, Ice Wiz, NATO, and Mega Minion. Then you have your spell cycle. In terms of Hog Tornado, there's actually another version with Hog Rider Executioner that you can choose to play instead. I was actually thinking of showcasing that deck, but this deck just won in terms of nostalgia, so let's take it for a spin and play our last game on the Retro Royale ladder for the video against Shadid here. I'm actually so looking forward to playing this deck, man. It has been a fat minute, and it actually used to be competitively viable, if you guys remember back in the day. There were actually people playing this in tournaments. Wow, we see a Mega Knight first play. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is a good Tombstone placement against Mega Minion, or against Mega Knight. I haven't Mega Minion selected, I think, because I used to watch Carl the Legend play Lava Hound a lot. I saw him doing this, so I think it's not necessarily a bad play. I think the Skeletons will, yes, do a decent job at, you know, swarming the Mega Knight and just defending them pretty well. I'll actually not rocket that Eggsy. I feel like a big mistake you can make with any kind of rocket cycle deck is going rocket too early, and I think in this case I'm just going to chill and, you know, just let him do his thing. Gonna actually let this balloon get a drop as well, just because I want to get the activation with the tornado. I think it's going to be pretty helpful to go for that. He actually goes for a clone, missing the clone. That is insane. So we are up against Mega Knight Balloon Clone, ladies and gentlemen, for the final game of this Retro Royale Nostalgia Fest. I cannot believe what we're seeing, but to be fair, should I be surprised? I mean, we already faced Mega Knight once before, I think, right? Or if not, then let this be a warning to all of you. Mega Knight will be very popular in this game mode, and you can expect to face a lot of Mega Knight. I am sorry. I know a lot of you guys despise Mega Knight, and I really do feel bad for you, but it's just the truth. Mega Knight is going to be very popular in this game mode, and you can expect all the casual players to be living it up playing that card. I didn't want to save my Mega Minion actually for the balloon, but I think I don't have a choice to play it now. I think I do have to snipe this Executioner, so go for that. As you can see, the Tombstone is actually doing a great job of defending the Mega Knights, and let's go for a Tombstone and actually miss the pull on the balloon, but it's okay because I can actually just NATO it in after the fact. That's the beauty of playing a tornado deck, and we actually get a lot of hog damage in the other side, guys. But yeah, that was a bit embarrassing. Please forgive me for that Tombstone misplacement. But again, tornado, such a strong deck, and I guess now we can kind of switch to my opponent's lane here, so that's going to be chill. If he goes Mega Knight at the back, I'm unironically going to rocket that, and I'm not even joking. So, goes for a cannon. Yeah, I told you guys I'm literally rocketing, because this deck really can start rocket cycling people, and what better time to start than right now. So, We also have to remember that this dude is casually playing a clone in this deck, so we do not want to get surprise factored by that. You know, he might just try and clone and get crazy with me. Let's go Ice Wizard, and we see a Balloon Minion Horde push, but unfortunately for him, we just have a Tornado with everything's name on it, and that's going to be a very nicely defended push. He does get one drop on, but it's fine. I'm actually going to switch gears entirely and shift to a Rocket Cycle mindset, because I feel like going Hog is a bit counterproductive when he's playing a cannon in this deck. It's going to be a free -1 trade. And again, the beauty of this deck is that you can choose to do Rocket Cycle as a playstyle. You do not necessarily need to just break through with your Hog Rider. I expect the same play, Balloon Minion Horde. I expected that entirely. And I can just rocket all of it, so very easily defended, honestly. And this Tombstone is actually doing a good job. Like I said, guys, I believe that is the Tombstone placement against Mega Knight, so take notes, because it seems like it's actually working pretty well for me right now. Speaking of this deck, by the way, I think this deck's also so strong just because Ice Wizard is so strong right now. Like, genuinely, Ice Wiz is so good in the meta, and I think it genuinely could get a nerf. Like, I'm not even joking or exaggerating. I know a lot of you guys love Ice Wizard, especially my fellow Ice Bow lovers, but I'm sorry, it's just so broken, and I can totally see Ice Wizard getting a nerf. Like, I'm sorry, it's just the truth, man. Let's NATO all of this over, though. Very easily defended. And you can see the Ice Wiz just putting in work. Like, it's just so good. And that buff to its splash radius just makes it insane. Like, it just splashes everything right now. Let's go for a Rocket again. One more defense in the bag, and then we're going to get this win. So you can see this deck is so strong. And I feel like it's a bit better than the other Hog Native version, because that one did have no buildings, you know, the classic one, the Viper Hog NATO deck. And now we can just Rocket to take the tower, pretty easily defended. And well played overall. Very nice win, and that's going to be the final game for Retro Royale. But yeah, I feel like, you know, this deck is just so good and so nostalgic. You know, maybe if you change the Tombstone for a cannon, it'll be better. But that is going to be Retro Royale, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, some beautiful decks out here. We obviously have the random mid-ladder nonsense like Mega Knight Balloon Clone. We have Lumberloon. We have Mega Knight Hog Rider. But, I mean, it's going to be pretty fun. We did get 3M for our first game. I'm sure we're going to see all sorts of nostalgic decks. As for honorable mentions for decks, let me give you guys a few to look at right now as well. So for the first honorable mention of the day, we have P.E.K.K.A. Bridgeband, one of the most classic decks of all time, and one that you can truly succeed with if you've been playing this for long, because this has been an archetype for many, many years, which means players that have experience with the deck will know how to outplay all the counters. But the one downside I will say is there will be plenty of those cycle deck counters. You know, Expo Cycle, 2.6 Hog, Logbait will all counter this deck, so you're going to have to know how to outplay them if you want to succeed. Speaking of 2.6 Hog, that's our next deck, because this obviously has to be mentioned if we're talking about Retro Royale. If you want to think about, you know, the OG decks in the game, you have 3.0 Expo, you have 2.6 Hog, you have classic Logbait. So 2.6 Hog, just very strong, and I've seen a lot of my friends playing 2.6 already having a lot of fun with the deck and just having success. Then we have classic Lava Loon. I think you can play guards if you want, or barbarians, it's up to you. I personally like guards because they're cheaper, but yeah, Lava Loon. We should see a fair amount of Lava Loon decks, I think, and this is one of the most classic ones out there, so I had to share it. Next up, we have Royal Giant, one of my personal favorite decks of all time from classic Clash Royale, with RG Furnace, which is so good. And actually, Furnace is not that bad right now because it did get buffed. So if you do enjoy Royal Giant, I think this will be a very fun control deck to play. You can choose between Lightning or Fireball, but I think Lightning will definitely be the better pick. And then lastly, we have Mortar Cycle. You know, we have Expo Cycle, we have Mortar Cycle. Also going to be so strong because there are no evolutions. So again, Mortar is a deck that got power crept by evolutions. So I feel like you can just do so good with classic Mortar Cycle. You have the Tornado. And I feel like Tornado is going to be one of the strongest decks in this entire game mode, which is also why I want to show a Tornado deck, which is why I showed Hog Tornado in my other first 5 decks, because I feel like it's just going to be so strong, one of the best decks in this game mode for sure. So, like I said, there are plenty of rewards to claim on your road up to Competitive League and Retro Royale. Make sure you claim all of them, because there are some amazing rewards in the season shop, and you can get some beautiful, beautiful banners. I would highly recommend it to all of you guys. Look at these, man. You have this burning house one, you have this baby dragon, you have the birthday kings, just so many amazing ones. You even have an emote over here, so definitely make sure to make the most use of these rewards. Collect the special banners and all sorts from the season shop. You also can unlock a lot of legendaries and classic cards from here as well, so just make the most use of the rewards from Metro Royale. And that's going to be it for the video. So like I said, we have 5 5 super classic decks. All deck links will be in the description below if you guys would like to copy them, and hope you have fun and have an entire blast in this beautiful, beautiful game mode. I am so glad Retro Royale is back.